Facebook, depending on where you are in the world. We're coming to you from the Rythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. And I can't tell you how many beautiful Tuesdays in a row we put together here. I'm very lucky to be associated with this place and doing the work that we're doing here. It's super, super important. What's Rythmia? Rythmia is a life advancement center, unlike none other in the world, that uses plant medicine, ayahuasca, metaphysical teachings, farm-to-table organic food, the cleanse, yoga, breathwork, meditation, to bring about this soul merger, this ancient activity called the soul merger or soul reclamation. And when one does this, the next step in their process is they usually want to become a beneficial presence on the planet. I've spoken some generalities, but I'll get more specific. Over 16,000 people have come to Rythmia. 16,000. 64,000 user experiences in ayahuasca. Crazy numbers, right? The good part, 97.86%. That's 97.8 people out of 100, or 978 out of 1,000, report a life-changing miracle during their stay. And the better part, at the 6-month survey, 90.22% say that this was the week that changed their life. And who do we cater to? Well, normal people like you and me. A lot of billionaires. Who's on our board of directors? Martin Luther King's son, Martin. Michael Beckwith, founder of the Agape Spiritual Center. Tony Cove, NYX Cosmetics. Kelly Slater, the greatest surfer of all time. Ron White, the comedian. Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup of the Soul. And Earl Koski, the businessman. And people come here that can go the president of the free world's brother comes here. And if you read about this, like, you take a look at these people, the athletes, the entertainers, the billionaires who come here, they could go anywhere in the world, but they pick here. Why? They have resources to investigate all the places in the world, and they pick here. And you should too, because it's simply the best, hands down. So I myself was a business guy. I ended up selling the company. The last business I was associated with, I founded and sold for a tick over $90 million. I was in a horrible place of my life, and medicine saved my life, really saved my life. And I replicated that experience into the Rythmia experience, right? So that way, the Rythmia way, is the process that we use. Since I first did this ayahuasca, which is about 9 years now, I've done 330 some journeys. And in each of these journeys, the mother imparts some kind of wisdom. Now, what I said, usually what happens is people come here and they are merged back together, and then they go out in life a different person, and they want to become a beneficial presence on the planet. They move from being a liability to being an asset to the planet. So what is a liability? A liability is someone who's entitled, who consumes, who's asking what's in it for me, and they move to the asset side is, what can I do for others? How can I help? How can I become a beneficial presence in my family, in my household, in my community, maybe my church or my business or my chosen field of endeavor, whether that's music or entertainment or sports, whatever. How can I become a beneficial presence on the planet? In this process, once you make that decision, it's extremely hard. And I tell people all the time, it's extremely hard, but the benefits are innumerable. They're uncountable, the amount of benefits. But it's very, 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 very hard. In this little thing, Success Advice from the Mother, I talk about some of the things that I learned. I was lucky to be able to have success before I met plant medicine, right? But plant medicine gives us these clear pictures as to why we succeeded and why people succeed and why people don't. And the thing that I talked about last week is the first thing that you need to get rid of when you decide this is the fallacy that some way it should be easy. It should be flow. It should just happen. But that's not how, that is in contradiction to universal law. What builds muscle? Tearing muscle. Right? Birth, tearing. Acquiring intellectual skill, studying. That's stretching. Everything comes from uncomfortability. Uncomfortability is the opposite of being easy. So people who are telling you that it's going to be easy are full of baloney. So how do I know that? I'm lucky enough to have some friends who are billionaires. And the one thing that they all have in common is the most horrible stories. I just saw a thing of the guy that started NVIDIA, and the interviewer said to him, what would you tell yourself if you were 18 years old and sitting on a couch sometime in the 1980s? And he said, I would tell myself, don't start a business. Because what I had to go through to create this multi-billion-dollar company was beyond description hard. It was the hardest thing I could ever do. And I wouldn't do it again if I knew how hard it was going to be. That's a very common truth about growth. That it's harder than anything you'll ever imagine. And it's going to create more benefits than anything you could imagine. But it's going to be harder. So what is the threat? Well, why doesn't everybody get there? Why doesn't everybody get lucky? Why doesn't everybody sell their company for 50 to 500 million or $1 billion? Why doesn't everybody do that? Because they quit. They quit. So the thing is, all of the quitting usually happens in these periods within the first 10 years that are hard. The startup period is where most people quit. And then they're in the startup period again, and the startup period again, and the startup period again, and they never get out of the gate. And you see those folks, and by the time they're 50, they look 200 years old because they never got to flow. Flow happens year 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. And my billionaire friends, most of them were in companies for 30 years. They started it 30 years ago. And that is the truth. So this is a long thing and it's hard. So one of the ways that we quit is the expectation that at some point it's going to be easy. And it is. But it only gets easy when it gets easy. It's harder up until that point. And that will happen sometime if you're really lucky. In one business I had, it happened in year 7. Usually it happens in 10, 11, 12. That's what kind of commitment. Now, I'm lucky I got beautiful sons. One of my sons is a 2-time Grammy winner. And that was a 10-year overnight success. I watched it. I watched someone do what I did in the arts and how the difficulty and the problems and the giving up and the not quitting and the da-da-da-da-da. So there's this whole process of it being hard. Now, there are people who are selling systems and theories of it should be easy. those people are making money from a story that sells well but doesn't work. And that is the truth. Yep. So what are the attributes or the commonalities of the people who don't quit? Number one, they picked what they wanted from the right place. So what does that mean? Usually, the vast majority of the people who come to rythmia, like 97, 98%, have this soul merger. And those folks pick the thing, the way that they want to become a beneficial presence from a merged place. It's not because they want to impress the girl next door or the guy at the coffee shop or their mother or the neighbors, the Joneses. It's from this vision out of their wholeness. They pick this thing with full knowledge that it's going to be incredibly hard. And it's a complete sacrifice and a call of duty to do this. They're clear on it. So that's the one thing. Those people do not have trouble keeping promises to themselves. So I always talk about this. One of my favorite movies is Young Frankenstein. And he says to Igor, he says, whatever I do, I'm going to go in this room, in this room with the beast. And whatever I do, no matter what I say, do not let me out. And as soon as he gets in there, he's screaming to get out, right? So people that pick this from a merged place and know full well what they're getting into, the thing they do is they make a promise to themselves that they're not going to break. And that promise usually is something like, I'm going to do this until they throw me out. I'm going to win. I heard another CEO the other day was talking, and he said, not only am I going to do it and give it all the energy in this life, if I die before I get there, I'm going to come back in the next life and finish my work. Like, that's the kind. And those people usually have a daily practice that includes some type of morning activity and prayer and things, and they make this commitment and they will not break it because they made that commitment. These are folks who generally don't rely on emotional things. They rely on agreements. So I'm going to tell you that out of 365 days, 100 of the days in year 1, 2, and 3, you're going to want to quit. But the only thing that will keep you from quitting is that you picked it from the right place, and you made a promise to yourself. The other characteristic is they get in way too deep. What do I mean by that? The people who are uber committed get in so deep. They either, let's say they're in the business, right? And they borrowed money from their family and they can't quit. They can't quit. And that's by design. That is by design. That's the universal nature of something, is that they get you in so far that you can't quit. You told too many people about your vision, you can't quit. You borrowed too much money, you can't quit. You invested too many hours of practice, you can't quit. That's another characteristic of the non-quitters, right? The other thing they do is, in the process of this grind, they fall in love with it. They fall in love with the process, and they wouldn't know what to do without it. So it becomes like when I'm doing something from the asset side and I'm giving something to the world, and it's duty and ethics and care and all of these things, I fall in love with doing it. That's how you keep it together. That's how you don't quit, right? Now, on the other side, why do quitters quit? And here's the thing. You'll find many things from the Bible, many things that your great-great-great-great-grandmother said are true, right? Winners never quit and quitters never win. That's a fact. That's a universal fact, right? Why? Well, number one, they picked it from the wrong place for the wrong reason. Number two, they break promises to themselves based on emotions. I don't feel good today, so let's say we're on a diet. Or let's say we're on a physical and spiritual diet that I'm gonna get up, walk for an hour. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna eat right. I'm gonna say my prayers. Well, that works for 5 days, and on the 6th day, my brother's refrigerator stops running, and I had to take his kids to school, and I had to give him money because his food, and blah, blah, and I don't do it. I don't do it. I'm a person who can't keep promises to myself. And if you can't keep promises to yourself, you're going to base your quitting on an emotion, and you're going to quit. And that is the truth. That's why these things are super uncomfortable. These things of keeping promises to ourselves and stretching ourselves out of comfortability are the key to the city, right? The other thing is they think that the grass is always greener. So they might be watching, and I've done this myself in a kind of envious way, is, I watched Michael Beckwith speak at Agape. And I thought, shit, that's easy. Look how he does it. And I didn't think in that moment the 40 years of practice that went into that beautiful speech, that beautiful lecture. So it looks like, doing this would be easier, or seeing this guy successful. Oh, that looks easier. So for the quitter, they're very easily influenced by the grass is greener from all these other things. And therefore, they're constantly quitting and restarting, quitting and restarting, quitting and restarting, because they don't know that one of my close friends is Papa John. And the amount of work and trouble that this man went through to build his empire. At one time, he had 85,000 employees and 8,000 locations. To build it was beyond words. But it looks easy. You see him flying on his plane and it looks easy. It wasn't. None of this. So the grass is always greener is the lie. And the last one is the fallacy of it shouldn't be this hard. Anytime you go into it, and the thing is with entrepreneurs especially, is they have a positive mental attitude. They do. And sometimes they think, how hard could it be? Right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, 90% quit right before they get to where they were going to go. Right before. They quit because they believe it shouldn't be this hard. But it is, until it's not. Right? At some point, you're 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever that time, it flips. And what you have is it's frequency and energetic inertia. That you're moving so far in a direction that you're creating your own energetic eddy, and everybody's jumping on with their own energy in your direction, and all of a sudden, the unit, the thing that you're driving, whether it's your community, your church, your guitar lessons, whatever, takes on a life of its own. And it takes on life and it carries you. At that moment, when you disengage and look, you are in flow. But that flow took 7, 8, 10, 12 years to create. So that is the truth. And if you can come to grips with that, and if you're the type of person who can make a commitment to that, you just won. You just won. The rest are details. At that moment, you won. And we want you to win, because the people, the 16,000 rythmiites who are now in the world, are doing that. They're doing that. And we want you to do it. So please put us in your calendar. Come here. Have this happen. I have 2 books. SH*T, The Moon Said, which is the story of how we got into this thing, and Truthonomics, which is a manifestation book. It's thin, but it works, and I'm living proof that it works. So listen, have a beautiful, blessed, sacred week. I hope that God holds you and protects you this week, and by all means, get honest with yourself. Get honest with yourself. Have a great week.